you fell for the okie doke, girl. And I'm like, yeah.
I felt like, no, they not getting me.
Right. And the truth is that it's only $40 a month. It's not like a huge deal, but it is a routine commitment, right?
Yeah, but you say it's only. I mean, $40 a month for some people. It's a big deal.
I mean, in the grand scheme of what we spend money on, let's just be clear.
Right.
I'm sure that there are listeners who spend more on their hair and on their nails
Look.
or on some Jordans. You know what? When we compare this,
wait. Why you pause and look at me?
Did I? I
Yeah,
don't think I looked
I
at you.
caught that. You were like on some Jordans.
Okay. Dining out. Welcome. This is For Better and Worth,
The podcast where we don't believe you have to sacrifice your relationship while you grow and build your net worth.
We are your hosts.
I'm Chris.
And I'm Ericka Young, and we're so glad you're joining us today.
All right, y'all, let's get into it. Hey, babe, how you doing today?
I'm good. I'm a little cold, okay?
Yeah, we're entering that season of weather.
Yes.
And I'm not a real fan of this season. Fall is actually my favorite season because, it's crisp. You could wear a sweater, jacket, or something, but it doesn't require a sweater, jacket, and a coat.
Or all the time boots or bundling up and you can't see your clothes. Listen, because, when you're trying to be cute and you got to put a coat or a jacket over it, it's like, am I still cute?
Look, I'm trying to be warm right now.
I know, right? So that's the whole thing. Anyway, I'm good, but it's cold outside.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it's also entering that, holiday season.
Yeah.
I always get excited around that time of year, so the cold doesn't bother me as much. And I think I was asking somebody recently, like, would you rather it be cold and no snow or snow with moderate temperatures?
You asked me that.
I asked a couple people that. You were one of them.
Yeah.
And I was surprised at the answers that
How do you answer that question?
I'd rather it be cold with no snow. I feel like I can deal. I don't like snow, so.
I love looking at the snow. So the truth is, working from home and not having a commute into the office, I can appreciate snow when it's in my backyard and it's pretty. But when it's hindering my ability to get somewhere and do something or be safe, I'm not about that.
I guess I can deal with snow when it's just covering the grass areas, but not the sidewalks and stuff like that. So
yeah, freezing cold temperatures is really annoying, to be honest. I actually don't mind snow if it's 40 degrees outside, but 20 degrees
40
like
degrees
today.
40 degrees though, it's gonna start melting.
That's not if it's a lot of snow. See, anyway, we're not here to talk about snow, but you're right. I'm just saying.
We got on a whole weather discussion.
We did, but that's where we are right now in the Midwest. So welcome if you are not in the Midwest. We're here.
Yeah, and if you're not in the Midwest, don't be talking about weather.
I know. We don't want to hear about it.
Right.
But this season is fun for a lot of reasons. You turn into Santa Claus and you just...
Ho, ho, ho.
You like to give gifts and that kind of thing. But I think it also brings up this whole idea of giving to good causes, adopting a family.
Yeah.
Just how do we participate in making sure that other people have a good holiday season?
I think everybody has a level of generosity to them right now, especially if you're in a position where you can give and be generous. And I think it's interesting that, Giving Tuesday just passed. And I was like, Giving Tuesday? I knew we had a thing at like our church where every December we have Giving Sunday, but I was like, man, this is a national day now, Giving Tuesday. And so it prompts the conversation that we intend to get into today. Should you give? Should you not give? Should you give while in debt? Do you tithe? And I know that opens that's Pandora's box for a lot of people when you talk about tithing and various types of giving. So
yeah, and I think that, to be fair, a lot of people see giving in different ways. Mm-hmm. And I'll be honest, sometimes you and I don't see exactly eye to eye on giving. So for instance, for instance, we were at
You trying to rat me out or something?
no, we were at an event, and I think it was just a Christian artist that we went to see sing and all of that, and it was really great.
Okay.
And then they're passing out the cards for you to adopt a child so they can go to school, and we've done this before. But they pull on your emotions, and
they play to your heartstrings
they
in the
do
moment.
in the moment. And so I wanted to do it, and you were like, "Oh, you want one of these things?" You kind of looked at me like,
I was like, "What?
You falling for the trap?" That's what you was looking at me like. You falling for the trap? You fell for the okie doke, girl. And I'm like, yeah.
I felt like, no, they not getting me.
Right. And the truth is that it's only $40 a month. It's not like a huge deal, but it is a routine commitment, right?
Yeah, but you say it's only. I mean, $40 a month for some people. That's a big deal.
I mean, in the grand scheme of what we spend money on, let's just be clear.
Right.
I'm sure that there are listeners who spend more on their hair and on their nails, or on some Jordans. You know what when we compare this.
Wait, why you pause and look at me?
Did I?
Yeah,
I don't think I looked at you.
I caught that. You were like, on some Jordans.
Okay. Dining out,
I will say this. I went to Starbucks yesterday and I ordered something and they said $11. I was like, what? $11?
What did you order?
I ordered like a drink and like a loaf or something. And
yeah, that's $11.
I was like, $11. I was like, I almost said I don't want it. Drove off.
This is the thing. You have a higher threshold for spending money than I do.
Mm-hmm.
But there are certain things that you are like, I ain't paying for that.
Right. I definitely have a limitation, or I place value on certain things, and
that's what it is.
And there's less value on other things. And in that moment, I was like, I don't know if Starbucks is worth $11 because I was like, geez.
So don't say $40 is a big deal when it's a good cause.
Yeah, I know. I get it.
A child can actually go to school and have on his uniform. And my, person that I am sponsoring, Vikram, is probably thriving because we helped.
Look, I sometimes feel like before we, go sponsor all these kids overseas, let's do more at home to take care of, children in need here.
Yes, so let's balance that conversation. The other thing that we have done is every year we buy coats for children who are needing to be clothed. In the past, we have adopted an entire family, and we have taken our kids to...
All right, you made your point.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Jeez.
But these are all ways that you could participate in giving. And I think when it comes to a coupled up relationship, sometimes people don't agree on that.
I think there are a lot of ways to give. You've shared some of the ways that we have chosen to give. In addition to, us tithing at our local church, I think people can find ways to give. And whether it's financially or whether it's, I guess if you buy something, it's still using finances.
But it's your time.
Right. You can give of your time. You can give of service. And I think there's ways for people to find ways to give. And here's the thing I say about giving. I think that today we live in a society that is very me-focused.
Yeah.
People don't look beyond themselves. And so when you get into a point where you have a heart and a spirit of giving, you can find a way to give. Because we say, can you afford to give? I say yes, because we're not always talking about giving dollars and cents. You can, if you really want to give, you can find a way to do it that, you go and serve someplace, spend your time, use your talents to help people. That is all giving. But I think people, when you hear give, all they think about is reach in my pocket, use my card or write a check. It's always money focused, but there's so many ways to do it because we do all of that.
Yeah. And the other thing that we do routinely is donate clothing or items, household goods. We do that throughout the year. And that not it's also a tax deduction. So much of the time when we're giving in these places, you can actually get a tax donation, now a tax
Right off.
deduction.
Yeah.
So we're not doing it for that purpose, but I do think that you should also make sure that you get your benefits of that. And so there's a lot of ways to give. I will say that a lot of people, you're right, assume that giving primarily, especially in Christian spaces, that it's only the tithe.
Yeah.
And let's not mistake, like the tithe is no joke. Like that's 10%. So if that is your conviction, have at it, because we've done that our entire relationship. Um and I mean, actually, I just believe that that's the blessing of God when you are putting that as a priority, if that is your conviction. And I also think that it's controversial. I think that giving in that way is controversial for a lot of people, because they're like, the church don't need my money, God don't need my money, and I think that that can get squirrely.
I think if you're, a Christian or you're a believer and you have, kind of made that decision that you want to follow and give and you follow that heart to give, yeah, I think you should do it. But I think people make assumptions because the one thing I know about churches is that churches are businesses.
Listen, that part.
Okay, it's a business, and having sat on boards and done different things within organizations and churches like that, I understand what it takes, especially if we've been part of large ministries, we've been part of smaller ministries, but those churches, it takes money to fuel it.
To
You have
keep
to
the
have,
lights on, for people to actually have a salary,
I mean,
that's real.
yeah, it's like you want the pastor, if that's their full-time work, to have a decent living wage so they can focus on doing that, as well as you want a church building that is comfortable, that you go to churches, they have snacks and coffee and all these different things that doesn't just show up.
It doesn't just materialize out of the air.
Right. And outreach programs and all these different things, that it requires support. And so I think, people can say, I think sometimes it takes one bad experience and people let that experience be the thing that dictates the rest of their response when you talk about, tithing and churches, because they think all the church wants is money. And the church needs money to run.
You wouldn't have an edifice to walk into to attend and experience church if it weren't for somebody's tithe. That's hands down the truth.
And the one thing I appreciate about the church that we attend is that they go out and they do things locally to impact the local community that we live in and serve that community. But then they will go and they'll do things nationally, to support other organizations that are trying to do good. And when there are national events that occur or natural disasters, we're always responsive and try to, send aid and help. And they do things globally. So I think I like the global, national, and local perspective that our particular church has, because we're meeting the needs on all those levels. Mm-hmm. And I guess when I said, we support the kid in India, we are supporting kids locally, doing other things like buying coats every winter. And, we do a lot of civic service and, our time. It's important, because I put a lot of value on my time. So when I choose to spend it somewhere, I'm spending equity in a different way. So I think if you ask, can I afford to give? Absolutely, everybody can, because you can give in so many different ways.
Yeah. And then I think the other thing too is do your research, because the one thing you mentioned, there's so many different organizations that our church gets involved in, and that's not true of every church. So let's be clear, we get that. And all of your giving does not have to be through the church, right? So there are other ways that you can participate in giving, and you got to do your research. I mean, for a couple of years, we would give, through the Red Cross, because your job would actually match dollars.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can find ways to actually do some giving, and that's exciting. Even now, like at your job, they will match giving to certain
Yeah.
organizations and things like that. And I think that's really cool. So you might have an opportunity to double your efforts if your company actually does do something like that. So, but I say do your research. I
Yeah,
think it's
you're making
important for
greater
folks.
impact.
Yeah, you can actually really make an impact to organizations that you care about, or that are starting up. I mean, for a season, we were donating to some friends who to their startup church, and they're doing pretty well right now. So I think the thing is to know your purpose and really be in alignment, between you and your spouse. And then the other thing is, I with kids, let them see what you're doing. Let your kids learn from you, because
Yeah.
you want your kids to have a giver's heart. It does my heart good to know that our youngest daughter, it has tallied up how much she made this year, and she's making her commitment this week for with her tithe and anything above that she's doing for the year. And like, that's exciting, you know what I
Yeah.
mean, for a 21-year-old to prioritize that. But she wouldn't have done that if we didn't model before her what
Absolutely.
it looks like to be a giver and how important that is. And so I just think that this isn't just for you and the initiatives that you want, but it's also so that you can raise up the next generation of givers. And I think that's exciting too.
I remember you said do research, and I remember we used to give to, you know, what is the Goodwill?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we used
Mm-hmm.
to give to Goodwill,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember that I was donating something, and here's what's funny: while we were donating, in the donation pile, I saw something that I actually a bike that I needed for one of our kids or something like
Yeah.
that. I was like, "Ooh, I'm giving you all this stuff. Can I take that bike?" I don't know what I was thinking. I know it's not how it works, but they were like, "No,
They were like, "You got to go buy this, hon. You
right.
got
They were
to
like, we got to put
go
a
get in
price on
line. Go
it,"
get in line."
and I was kind of, I'll be honest, I was kind of perturbed because I was like, all this stuff I'm bringing here, all these quality goods I'm bringing, and
It's not a trade.
I know it's not, but I'm just telling you how I felt. Okay, I was like, I can't get this little $5-10 bike, and you
Yeah.
want it, and they actually made me. They had to put a price on it, and I had to buy it,
Uh-huh.
and I was like, okay, Goodwill. I think that was the last time I donated to the Goodwill
Well,
because
yeah.
because then I started doing more research, and now I'm not hating on anybody that works for nonprofits, but then I saw the CEO was getting paid like $800,000 or something. I was like, wait a minute. So I started giving to Red Cross
Mm-hmm.
because it's different in how they provide those goods. You still have to pay for some of the stuff at Red Cross, but it was different. And even more so, we found another local
Yep.
organization that they give everything away.
It's so cool because as Girl
They don't
Scout.
charge people for anything.
No, and so we found this organization because our Girl Scout troop,
Yep.
we did some volunteer work at this place, getting ready for their holiday shopping experience for those in need. And so
Right.
we helped set it up, and we did that for
And
several years,
you
and
could
they do
go in
a
there
great
and
job.
shop. You could go in there and shop, and it is not junk.
No, it's some good stuff.
This is like some stuff is new,
Yep.
some stuff is gently used.
Yep.
And I think when you give in that way,
Yeah.
it provides dignity to
Mm-hmm.
people, because just because you're in need doesn't mean that, you don't have dignity, or you're just, a low life or something.
Right.
It's like treat people with honor and
Yes.
respect and love. So every time I donate now, I go to that organization, and I
Yeah.
don't take them any
No crap.
crap. I
Right.
take them stuff that someone can utilize. I take them clothes that are coming straight out of my closet because I'm trying to make space, or I'm trying to purge, or
Yeah.
something. I'm like, look, this is high quality stuff.
And we have tried to sell stuff. So this is the other reason why I've become a much bigger donation person, is because I have actually tried to be a person who sells things, and I just don't think
Yeah,
it's me.
consignment.
I have tried consignment. I have tried, like, we renovated our house, and there was a whole bunch of our household goods that I took in my car, filled up my vehicle, went and tried to consign it. They said, "We don't want your crap." I was like, "This was in my house yesterday and you don't want it." They were like, "It's dated." What?
I guess hence the remodel.
Listen, I was like, "Oh my God," I thought it was cute. Anyway, but they didn't want it. So then I took it right on over there because I wanted that organization
Mm-hmm.
or people who, were looking for homes, right? People, single moms who are struggling. I wanted to be able to help. And so I'm like, hey, here we go. And so I just think that there definitely are different ways, that
Yeah,
you can
I think it's
give.
important. I think it's important to find those places that align to your value system that you want to support,
And
and
then
that's where you should go. That's where
yeah.
you should give, and even if you're giving financially, I know some people will give to scholarship funds or
Yep.
other things, and that's something that we have a desire to create. A scholarship fund, so we believe in education, so. There's a number of
Yeah.
ways of as far as where you can give, and it's easy. All you gotta do is just start looking, and you'll find more than you're probably equipped to give to.
Well, the other thing that I started thinking about too is the how much of my dollars are actually utilized for the purpose that you're donating for, because typically there is a administrative percentage um or fees, and a lot of times they will say, hey, do you want to absorb that cost as well, so you're not just donating $100. What if you donated $105 to absorb some of that administrative cost? But some of that is public. If it's a large organization,
Hmm.
you'll be able to find that info. So anyway, there's tons of ways to give. I think the question we have to discuss, if you will, is do you do this giving? Do you do this giving while you are in debt? I think that's a big question.
I think before I could answer that question, I have to go back and I think about the motivation to give, because I think the motivation to give will help you answer if you should give while you're in debt. And for me, I think about growing up with a single mom and my brother and sister and I. And I remember, you know, every year there was this organization that used to give us like this. It was called Goodfellas. They would give you a Goodfellow box. And, we were low income, but I mean, they used to put like some cool stuff. I mean, you would naturally get like underwear
What
and
was the
socks.
cool stuff?
You would get underwear and socks, but then they put like some candy in there and they put a toy or just different things. They tried to make it a variety type of thing. And my mom, she did a lot to provide things to us at Christmas time, even though, we didn't have a lot of money. She just figured out how to make it work. But I remember that organization specifically because, we would get that support every year. And so the generosity that I have is to support others and organizations that may have that shortfall and help them, like I talked about dignity before, like help them have that dignity, help them be in a I like you call me Santa Claus, let them feel what it
Yeah.
feels like to, have that excitement around giving. And hopefully when they become of age and they, become of means, they could do the same thing. Then you create a cycle.
Mm-hmm.
So you always have someone who is, filling that gap, filling that need.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it becomes a heart thing at that point. And it takes the focus off of you solely and really starts to focus on the people
Yeah.
around you. And if we did more of that, I think we will have less conflict, less, just less conflict, period, because
Mm-hmm.
people always want to fall on the right or the wrong side of an issue. I mean, I don't think people try to fall on the wrong side of it, but sometimes they just do. And, I think that, with the divisions that are out there, when you talk about politics and religion and the way people see things, if we just all paused and, thought about the other person's perspective or the other person's position or try to do things to, help people that are in need truly, I'm not talking about the scammers out there, who are just scamming people. I'm talking about people who have genuine needs and having compassion as a people for the person standing next to you, because we never know what people are going through, because everybody is going through something. And so for me, that spirit of generosity comes from growing up as a child and knowing that, okay, now I'm in a position and I'm able to, so then I want to.
Mm-hmm.
And then if we go and talk about being in debt, I still say there is a way. Because we've already talked about a number of ways you can give that aren't necessarily financial.
Yeah, absolutely. So there definitely are many ways for folks to give. I think logistically, I'm always the person who's looking at the numbers, right? I'm always the person that's like, it's got to balance, it's got to make sense, all of that. So, but as a coach, I actually never say you can't do this.
Yeah.
I say what needs to change so you can say yes. And I want someone else to think about, are there areas in their budget or their finances that they can alter in order to, one, if tithing is the priority for them, let's just talk about that one for a minute. Like, if tithing is the priority, what needs to shift in order for you to make that the priority in the budget? So make it make sense, right? We're not going to not pay bills because that's the priority. We want to make sure that the budget is right size. And so I think practically speaking, you have to think about those things. But if that's not the issue, if sometimes the issue is people disagree. I've actually come across folks that are like, I don't want to give nothing, like, or I just think that shouldn't be our priority right now. And then the other partner is like, well, but I really think it's important. Like, it's a good cause. Like, this makes sense. And I think that it requires a real conversation. Sometimes you have to, it's okay to agree to disagree and agree on what can the person who wants to give.
What can they give?
And sometimes that means that it's not as much as they wanted to originally, but at least you have the satisfaction of knowing, one, that you came into agreement on the issue, and also there is a number that was agreed upon by the both of you, even if it wasn't the number you originally wanted, if you're talking about dollars and cents.
As you were talking about that, I thought about what that could look or feel like if you have a couple and one wants to give and one doesn't want to give. Mm-hmm. It's like, man, that I didn't feel good. Like, just thinking about how that conflict could, create angst in a relationship. And I think it's always good that we've been aligned in what we do. And it's funny, I think we both try and feel each other out.
Sometimes we don't align on the amount.
I know, because you'll be like, well, what did you want to do? And I'll be like, what did you want to do?
Right. Nobody wants to speak up first. And I'm like, well, we're going to have to come.
Sales 101, the person who speaks first loses.
But, like, sometimes it is a negotiation.
Right. Because you'll say something and I'll be thinking in my head that it's either, where I want to be or not where I want to be. Then it's like, well, I was thinking this. And then we go through this negotiation process until we land on what we're both comfortable with.
Right.
But I think we've had more times where we've been able to land on the same side than, okay, we got to walk away and we got to come back, and discuss this later.
And I will tell you, so this year, when we had talked about some giving above our normal tithe, in my mind, I could have gone higher on that number, but because of the most recent car repairs, because of some most recent situationships that have occurred, I was like, maybe this isn't the time to do that.
I think life happens.
It does.
And it's like, look, man, I've been spending money and buying cars and I don't want to do anything.
I mean, and
I want to just take a break.
That's real. And I don't think there's anything wrong with feeling like that, but I do think that that's where we have to trust. We have to not only trust God, but we also have to put less trust, if you will, in our savings account and just know, okay, is this the right thing to do? Yeah. Are we in alignment? And I like to ask, so this is the question I like to ask is, will you regret not doing it? I
think that's always a good question.
It is. I've had to ask myself that question quite a lot with some of the decisions that I've needed to make. And I think for this type of situation, especially if it is a one and done type of opportunity, or if it is a disaster that is occurring immediately right now, or if I even had a client recently say, actually you had a coworker who lost their home in a fire.
Yes.
And we also had, I actually had a client who, who a friend was going through something really serious and needed some assistance. And so it's now or never in some of those instances. And you really have to think
You have to
about
respond in the moment.
in the moment, right? And so, and we're not talking about at all enabling people. We're
Right.
talking
No.
about literally having a generous heart
We're not talking about lending
in a moment of
or
need, right?
none of that.
Yeah.
And you asked that question, would you regret it? And I ask a different question. And I always say, will it change the course of life?
Yeah, that's always your question.
That's my question, because the amount I will give, or how I'll respond to a situation, will it change the course of life for us?
Yes.
Because
because that's a different question for some other couples.
Right.
Somebody else's household, will it change the course of life? It might be a number. Our number is different than yours.
Right. And it may impact in a way that can affect your household.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean by when I say, will it change the course of life? What's the impact it will have on our household?
Right.
Are we going to have to choose not to do something, or not to go somewhere, or not to spend on something that is for us or for a household? If we're willing to sacrifice that, maybe I would still do it. But I always have to that's how I just assess, where I want to be and how I want to give. So I think, the gist of, what we're talking about is, I think it all comes back to the heart. So I'm going to get to the make it worth it.
Okay.
Because
let's go.
When I think about making it worth it, I think that when it comes to giving, and if you should do it or should you not, should you do it while you're in debt, should you tithe, all of those things, I think it ultimately comes down to your heart. And that is what's going to make it worth it for you. Because you're going to have different motivations of why you want to do something, just like you're going to have the same motivations as to why you don't want to do something. But I think if you assess your heart and your real motives, for it, that will help you make the best determination of what you should and should not do.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
So, well, what do you say around how would you make it worth it?
I think the biggest thing is plan to give. So make room in your budget, make room like you in your heart, for instance. Maybe there's a heart shift that needs to take place, but plan for it. You have to have some margin in life. In your budget, even if it's just $20, because it really feels good to give, right? So it could be $20, it could be $100. It doesn't even matter how much it is, but make a plan for it. And I've had clients who actually have a benevolence fund, and they don't know who it's going to. They just make sure that it's there. I actually have a client now.
That's when you're getting big time. You got a benevolence fund.
But this is just simply in the budget. That's what we call it. And then another client.
I think that's hilarious. Like, yes, in the benevolence
right,
fund.
But that's what it's called.
This month we're going to fund these super causes.
You so silly. And then I have another client who's like, I just want during this holiday season to be impromptu in some giving. And so we put that in the budget. So like they can tip big, or they can pay for someone's babysitting, or they can buy somebody a coffee. They don't want to have to think about, do I have the money for it? We've already planned for it in the budget. And so I just say plan to give.
You plan for that heart of generosity.
Yeah. And then you don't have any excuses about how you could say no, right?
Look, at different points in life, we all need help.
Yeah.
And 9 times out of 10, when you ask somebody for help, depending upon the situation, most people will say, yes.
Can you help me out here?
Yeah. And so I think like giving is never a bad thing.
No, it's never. Actually, 70% of Americans are givers to, they donate or they do some type of charitable giving. And so you're in good company. If this is in your heart to do, you're in good company. I just want people to do it well and not not have their goals get off track because of it.
Yeah, I think giving is never a bad thing. So
that's right. So
I hope people take to heart.
Yeah.
Are you a giver or are you a Scrooge?
No Scrooges here. But until next time,
we're out. Thank you for spending some of your time with us today.
We appreciate all of your support, so be sure to subscribe, rate, and review us wherever you listen to this podcast.
You can find us on Instagram at For Better and Worth.
And sign up to receive our free guide, The 7 Reasons Your Money Relationship Isn't Working with Your Partner, on forbetterandworth.com.
Until next time, we're out of here.